Good morning to you all. Myself Shreya, and today we are going to continue on the beautiful topic of nutrition in plants. So let us continue. In our previous video we have talked about the nutrition and of course the modes of nutrition, and today we are going to continue on the photosynthesis. So in our previous video we had also talked about the raw materials and how they are absorbed or taken by the plant, right? So now it is the time for us to understand how does the plant exactly produces carbohydrate. Now we already know that carbohydrate is made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, right? So of course we need these materials, right? So you see that there are two reactions which happen in the photosynthesis. So that simply means that photosynthesis occurs in two parts. Let us understand that. So firstly, there are two reactions, as I had already told you, which is light dependent reaction and there is one more reaction which is light independent reaction, just opposite, which doesn't require light, right? That is light independent reaction. So there are two reactions, light dependent reaction and light independent reaction. Now these sounds to be a very long names, so let us call it as light reaction and dark reaction because it doesn't require light, right? So in simple words, let's call it as light reaction and dark reaction. Now what happens in these both? Do you know, as you see, here is the light independent reaction. So do not think that this reaction happens at night. Though it is the light independent reaction or dark reaction which doesn't need light, but it happens along with the light reaction. So light reaction and dark reaction happens together whenever the photosynthesis is going to happen, which is in the morning. The light reaction and the dark reaction is going to happen together, right? So now what we see is that what happens in the light reaction. Let us just look at this first. It is not very complicated, it is very simple. Just understand the logic here, okay? So in the light dependent reaction, what happens is that the water, which is simply H2O, right? So the water, which is H2O, this water, what happens is with the help of the energy, yes, with the help of the energy of the sun, what happens is that chlorophyll, yes, we know what is chlorophyll, the green pigment, right, which is present in the chloroplast of the leaf cell, yes. So what happens is that the chlorophyll takes the energy from the sun and then it breaks down this H2O, which is the water molecule, and when it does that, yes, H2O, that is what it is. It is actually two hydrogen molecules, right? and one oxygen molecule joined, right? So it is something like this. Two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. So what happens is when that chlorophyll breaks down the water molecule, the oxygen is released in the atmosphere and the hydrogen is taken. So that simply means that H2O, it is broken down and oxygen is released, right? Like this. What happens next is that you see this oxygen is now released and the energy from the sun, the chlorophyll has already used a part of the energy to break down the water molecule, and now it is left of some more energy. So what does it do with that? It takes that energy and produces the ATP. So here ATP is produced along with one more, which is NADPH. Now you will ask me, what is this NADPH? We also talked about this in our previous video. Actually, NADPH is like the cousin brother of ATP. Like we have the cousins or the siblings, isn't it? So NADPH and ATP, these both are, you can think of them as energy currency, right? As we use this currency for taking the things, right? In the India it is rupees, in the Americas it is dollars, right? Like this, there is also energy currency, which is ATP and NADPH. And one more thing here is that NADPH, this H here is actually hydrogen of the water. Yes, remember the two hydrogen? So now you see that what happened next is that NADPH and ATP, now these are then given here and the dark reaction starts. Now dark reaction is more often called as Benson-Kelvin cycle or Kelvin-Benson cycle. Do you know why? Because Kelvin and Benson, they both discovered this dark reaction, and that's why it is known as Kelvin-Benson cycle. Now what happens is that this ATP and NADPH is given here so that the carbon dioxide, which is CO2, right, it is then with the help of NADPH and ATP, this carbon dioxide gets converted into simpler carbohydrate molecules, and here our goal is completed. Now you got carbohydrate, our result which we wanted, right? So this was the whole process of photosynthesis. Let me just repeat it. So what happens is, firstly the water, it is broken down by the help of the sun's energy, and then what happens is that the oxygen from it releases in the atmosphere and hydrogen is taken. Then the energy, you see this energy is the light energy, right? It is the light energy. This light energy is converted into chemical energy. Have you noticed this? Yes. So here what happens is that also in the photosynthesis there is also conversion of light energy to chemical energy. As you had seen energy, which is the light energy from the sun, right, the sunlight, that is converted into the chemical energy, which is ATP and NADPH. So as you see here that this energy, which is the light energy, gets converted into ATP and NADPH. Do you know the full form of ATP? Adenosine triphosphate. We had also listed this in our previous video. You can go through it by clicking on the I button and you can again revise it all. So you see that ATP, which is also adenosine triphosphate, it is then used here in the dark reaction in which the carbon dioxide is converted into simple carbohydrate molecules, and then it is stored in the plant as sugar. Now the simple carbohydrate molecule here is actually glucose. So more specifically, if I am going to talk, so it is glucose, right? The simple carbohydrate molecule. And this is the whole process of photosynthesis. Now I hope that it is super duper clear, and now it is the time for moving ahead. But 1 minute. We all have talked about this, right? And have you seen one more thing? Have you noticed one more thing? What we need to do, what we need to get in the process of photosynthesis? We need to get the energy, right? So the plants need to get the energy. So already ATP and NADPH is released, which is also the energy, right? Which has also energy. So why do we need to convert ATP and NADPH into glucose? Why it is required? Now this is because ATP and NADPH, it has very, you can say, very energy, very much energy, and it can't be stored. It need to be used very fast. And plant need to store it, right? It doesn't do the process of photosynthesis whole day. It doesn't do it at night. So it needs the energy, right? So for storing energy, it is very, very important and essential to convert ATP and NADPH into simple carbohydrate molecule, which is glucose. So that's why this ATP and NADPH is converted into glucose. So that's all for photosynthesis, and let us move on to next subtopic, which is fun facts. Yes, some fun facts. So have you remembered the cacti? Yes, of the deserts. Now have you seen one thing? The cacti, or in singular it is known as cactus. So cacti has the spines. There are no leaves, right? So how does they do the process of photosynthesis? Let us talk about this. So firstly, let me just erase them all up. So, if I am going to speak the name desert, what is going to come first in your mind? Yes? Scarcity of water, lack of water, right? Sand and sand all over. Yes. So we all know that desert has very much lack of water or scarcity of water, right? So the plants there, for example the cacti, it needs to, you can say, that store more water, and it needs to reduce the transpiration, process of transpiration, or the water loss we see. So water loss should be very little in the desert plants, because there is very lack of water. So if there is very less water, so you are not going to waste the water, right? Something like this happens with the other plants of desert. comfortably. So what does they do is that the leaves are not broad and they are just modified in the spines. But why spine? Let me explain you. So do you know the process of transpiration? For knowing transpiration, do you remember evaporation? Yes, of course. So what happens is due to the heat, what happens is the water start getting converted into water vapor, right? Which is its gaseous form, right? So what happens is that this process of conversion of liquid into its gaseous form is known as evaporation. So in the leaves also, in the leaves of the plant, there are water, and due to the heat of the sun, the leaves, you see, they are wide and broad. So there are also water, right? So what happens is due to the heat of the sun, the water start to evaporate. And because of this, what happens is that there is water loss, right? So this process is actually known as transpiration, right? So actually transpiration occurs from the stomata. Actually the water gets converted into water vapor, which is then gone into atmosphere with the help of the stomata. Yes, the tiny pores which we can't see. Yes. So what happens is that in the desert plant, it should be very, very less. Transpiration should not be there, or very, very less. So for this, the broader the surface is, the more the transpiration is going to be, right? Let's understand with an interesting, you can say, activity. You can do it at your home. Just take a glass, right? A glass of water, and you can say a plate in which there is equal amount of water, right? And now and then what you have to do is you have to put these both into the sun or outside, and then after some time you are going to observe that the water in the plate has evaporated a lot than the water in the glass. This is because the plate has the broader surface and the glass has the small hole type of or small opening, right? So because of this, the process of evaporation occurred faster in the plate and it occurred slowly in the glass. Same occurs in the leaf. So the broader the leaf is, the more the transpiration is going to happen. The smaller the leaf is, the less the transpiration is going to happen. So if the leaves are like thin and spine-like, so there will be less transpiration, and that goes with the cactus. So it has the spine-like leaf, and now we know why it has. And there are also extensive root. What do you mean by extensive root? Actually, the root doesn't go very deeper, but it is very extensive, which simply means it absorbs more water than the normal plant. So if there is water all around, so the cactus plant is going to absorb more water than the normal plant, something like this one. So, and now it comes to photosynthesis. Now you will ask, so if the leaves are spine-like, and then how the process of photosynthesis is going to occur? Now, the photosynthesis, this process actually occurs in the stem. Yes, the fleshy stem of the cactus plant, of the cacti. So you see that the stem, which is very fleshy, you see very thick, so, and it is green in color. What do you remember with the green? Chlorophyll, right? So chlorophyll gives the leaves its green color, and same goes with the stem of the cacti. So because of the chlorophyll, the stem of the cacti is green, and if there absorbs the sunlight, do all the light reaction, dark reaction, produces glucose and stores it as the sugar. So, you see how interesting it was? Now, do you know that sometimes what happens is that the process of photosynthesis, right? It is, you see, a very beautiful process. And do you know that why we humans can't do this process? I think you have got the answer. Why we humans can't do the photosynthesis? Because we also have the water, carbon dioxide, sunlight, right? Because of the lack of chlorophyll, right? That is the main and essential component which is required for the photosynthesis. So, because of the lack of the chlorophyll, which we don't have, we can't do this process of photosynthesis. Now, I hope it is clear. Now, our next subtopic here is other modes of nutrition. We have talked about how the plants are autotrophs, which means they produce their own food, right? So, I just made a video on this as well. Our first video on nutrition in plants. You can go through it by clicking on the I button at the corner. So, you know that the autotroph, it means the self-nourishment, right? So, the plants are autotroph. Why? Because they make their own food. Not like us, right? We take the food of the plants and animals, right? So, you see that the plants are autotrophs, but there are some plants which are heterotrophs, which means other nourishment. So, some plants are heterotrophs as well. Carnivorous plants. Have you heard of them as well? So, there are some carnivorous plants, and I am going to say them as insectivorous plant. Why? They eat the insects, of course. They can't eat us, of course, right? See the size? So we are this much tall and they are this much small. So of course they are not going to eat us. They are going to eat the insects, not the big animals such like us and lions and tigers, right? Of course. So the plant eats the insect, the heterotrophic plants. So they are known as insectivorous plants. Now, can you give some examples of it? Okay, let me give you. Do you know the largest flower of this whole world which is discovered right now is Rafflesia, which is an insectivorous plant. And do you know that there is very popular examples, Venus flytrap and pitcher plant. Venus flytrap and pitcher plant, let me tell you. So let us start with the Venus flytrap. Now if you have ever seen Venus flytrap, you will observe that it is green in color. If it is green in color, that means it has chlorophyll. If it has chlorophyll, so why it needs to eat the insects? It can do the process of photosynthesis and all that. This is because these Venus flytrap and pitcher plant is also green in color. So what happens is that they do the process of photosynthesis, but what happens is that there is lack of nutrients in the soil in which they grow. So the deficient soil in which they grow, so they need to just get the nutrients which are not there in the soil, right? So for that they need to consume the insects to complete their nutrient supply. So That's why they are insectivorous. So that simply means that Venus flytrap and pitcher plant, they do the process of photosynthesis and they also eat the insects. Now, here you see that the Venus flytrap, it has the leaves which are modified like this. Like a jaw? Something like this, right? So it is like this, and there are some hairs, right? Like our nails. Yes, there are hairs. So what happens is that when an insect, let's assume that this marker is the insect. So when the insect comes, it traps it and starts to secrete the digestive juices, and then the digestive juices digest the insect. Same happens with the pitcher plant. Now pitcher plant is shaped like a pitcher jar. Have you seen the pitcher jar? Okay, let me give you an idea. So it is something like this, right? And there is also a cap like thing, okay? A cap like thing. So what happens actually is that when the insect sits over here, it is then fallen down and the cap closes. So when the cap closes, the insect is now inside and there is liquid. And also the hairs which push the insect down, and there is liquid so that the insect cannot fly again, and then the digestive juices are secreted and the insect is digested. That's how the pitcher plant and the Venus flytrap feed on the insect. Now, have you heard the name of amabel? Not amabel. You see, it is in English it is known as amabel and cuscuta. Yes, let me just give you the idea of it. And let us talk about that as well. So cuscuta and amabel, so actually they both are same. Yes. So what happens is that cuscuta is the yellow pipe-like structure which overlaps, which you can say rests on another plant, another healthy blooming plant, and it takes out the nutrients from the other plant. That's why cuscuta is referred as the parasite. A parasite sucks or takes the nutrients of the other, you can say other plant in this case, which is the host plant. We call it as host plant, right? So we see that cuscuta is the parasite which takes the nutrients of the host plant. And can you give another example of the parasitic plant? Okay, one more example. Indian pipe. Yes, what does it do is that it attaches its root to other plant's root, and then it sucks the nutrients. So it was, you see that how the plants are also heterotrophic and autotrophic, and both as well. You see, cuscuta lacks the chlorophyll, and that's why it is a parasitic plant. Now, same goes with the Indian pipe. For now, I think we should end this video and talk about the saprotrophs and the plant nutrients in our next video. So for now, thank you for watching this video and have a nice day ahead. If you want any improvement in me, so you can comment it in the comment box. Thank you.